Hey everybody, it's Ryan Saplin, and I'm here to review anatomy, biomechanics of the lower body at least, and help you understand how the body functions when there are imbalances, and maybe help you pass your NASM test if that's what you're testing for, or just maybe understand why certain positions are important when you're trying to squat more weight. Now, one of the first things in NASM when they talk about in the certification, or one of the things in the overhead squat assessment, is that the ankles or the calves of well, let me start over. When the feet turn out, right, like this, the reason why when people's feet turn out, first understand why is it when people squat, why do people's feet turn out? Let's just try to understand that first concept. People's feet turn out because lots of different reasons. Because essentially when you're trying to squat or you're trying to carry something heavy and stay upright and squat down, you want to stay fairly upright under most circumstances, especially if you're doing like a barbell squat, right? Now, I don't want to take this idea too much to an extreme, but I do want you to understand the ankles and the feet relationship. So if I were to squat down with my feet turned out like this, you see how I can pretty much keep my heels on the ground fairly well? Now, if I have my feet straight, and then I try to squat and try to stay upright, I really can't stay as upright. You see, you can actually, my heels are actually coming off. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but if I go lower, you can actually see how much more pronounced my heels are coming off. Now, if I keep my heels on the ground, I have no choice but to lean forward. So, on the overhead squat assessment, when you see someone have their hands above their head and they squat and lean forward, one of the reasons why they lean forward is because their ankles are tight. And if their ankles are tight, they're missing what movement, what motion is restricted when their ankles are tight. This movement here, when you bring the toe towards the knee like this, what is this movement? This is called dorsiflexion, when I try to bring my toes towards my knee. Plantar flexion is when I push my toe towards the ground. So dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. If my feet is on the ground, connected to the ground, and I'm trying to bend my knees forward, this is creating dorsiflexion at the ankle. That's what the movement's occurring. And when people are missing dorsiflexion, what's happening is their heels will come off because of lack of dorsiflexion. Now, one way to assess if it's, so these are very specific to me because I'm very tight in the lower body, as you can tell, especially in the calves, one of my limiting factors. But one of the things that they do in the corrective exercise certification, or they do in the other advanced certifications in NASM, is they talk about squatting on plates, like this. And this is just a way to assess. So if I keep my heels here on this block that's about 1.5, 1 inch high, like I'm wearing high heels or Olympic weightlifting shoes, and I squat, you see how I can pretty much keep my body fairly upright. Now, if I want to keep my heels on the ground and do the same thing, I have no choice but to lean forward or my heels come off the ground. And this is because of lack of what movement? The toes moving towards the knee or the knees moving over the toes. That movement is dorsiflexion. All right, let's take this concept further and let's move upstream into the knees, right? When someone squats and their feet turn out, right? That means they're missing dorsiflexion, which means their calves are tight. They need to work on foam rolling and stretching their calves. Now, when people squat, you'll see them squat and their knees will turn out as well, or their knees will push out, right? What's that mean? It means a multitude of different things. It means that their IT band is tight, it means their glutes are tight, it means their hip flexors are tight, it means that their adductors are tight. But in the NASM certification, they want you to explain the movement pattern you're looking for. And what they're looking for is when they say knees out, they're actually looking at knees out relative to the foot, not relative to, like, if my feet are pointed out and I squat like this, my knees are still coming in, or I should exaggerate that more. So if my feet are out like this and I'm overhead squatting, and you can see my feet are pointed out, and I squat, it looks like, depending on kind of your experience, my knees are actually moving in. And how do you know they're moving in? Because if you look at my ankle right here, my ankle bone, it's actually it's flat and my feet are flattening. This is typically something you'll see from the back side. When you see someone squat, they'll squat down and you'll see their foot flatten like this. But from the front you can kind of see it too, because typically if the knees adduct or come in, knee adduction, right? Knees adduct, that means the knee is tracking over the big toe. So if we were just look at one side, let's kind of look at this from a one unilateral position. The knee is moving over the front toe, And if the knee is moving in towards the big toe, that means the knee is going in. Essentially, you want the knee to track actually towards the middle toe. And in practical application, and in my experience, it's actually better if you can teach the client to push your knee towards out the pinky toe. But you really want it over the toes. They really want a perfect squat. A perfect squat, essentially, to NASM point of view, is their feet are perfectly straight, their knees are pointing straight, and their knees are going over their toes. Now, I've never met anyone that can do that. Well, maybe there is. I met one person, not a client though, it's an athlete. But understand, it was actually a gymnast, huh? Funny. A gymnast, some of the most flexible people in the world. But going back upstream, so when the knees come in, that means their knees are tracking over their big toe, or they're not tracking over the center of their foot. So even if my feet turned out and I squat, if my knees aren't tracking over the middle toes, my knees are coming in. When you check that box off in the assessment sheet. So understand that when they squat, I'm getting a little repetitive here. So what about when knees pointing out, knees going out? Now, this can mean a lot of different things, but in my experience, knees out is not something you're going to see. It might be the way to remember knees out, because I can't remember off the top of my head, is that if you can remember what knees in means, you'll remember what knees out means, right? So this is kind of where knowing anatomy will make a big difference. So if knees move in, what's that mean? It means their inner thighs are tight. Their calves are also tight, but under most circumstances, it's mostly their adductors. Why? Because the inner thighs adduct. They bring the knee towards the midline. So they need to stretch their adductors. Now, what pushes the knees out? There really isn't a muscle that pushes the knees out. Because really what happens is the knees aren't really, the way you have to look at it from 3D perspective is the knee or the femur bone, which is connected to which creates a kneecap here, is the knee isn't really moving outwards because the body is three-dimensional. The femur bone is rotating out. It's turning out like this to keep a stable foot position. You can see how if you can see my feet here, I'm actually maintaining an arch now. Whereas if my knees come in and they adduct, my foot will collapse, right? So understand that the femur bone needs to rotate. So when knees move outwards, when the knees move inwards, they're adducting, which means the adductors are tight. Now, in order for your knees to not come in together or adduct, they have to move apart or abduct, abduction. The femur bones need to rotate. So think about this: my knees are out, they're going to rotate out this way. The femur bone is, and the muscles that do that are what? It's the glutes. How do you know it's the glutes? Well, there's lots of different reasons. Simple reason is that if you were just standing here and you were to kind of feel your toes on the ground and you were to push your knees out, you could feel your knees. You might feel your glutes a little bit, you may not, but if you squeeze your glutes, the one thing that you will notice from a standing position with your feet fairly straight, your knees will want to move out. And if I bend my knees a little bit and I squeeze my glutes, my knees will want to move out. So understand the glutes help keep the knees in a neutral position, or in this case, if they're coming in together and adducting, the glutes actually help stabilize. So that means the glutes aren't doing their job. The glutes are weak. And the way to remember this too is if you remember anatomy very well. The glutes insert right here, I don't know the attachment point, but right here in the butt crack, and they span through, like the gluteus maximus, they span through and go down in the knee here, okay? So you just gotta imagine this muscle that goes like this. And then the muscles pinnate sort of in this direction, right? And then kind of slide downwards into the TFL and IT band section. So that muscle, when it contracts and pulls, it's rotating the femur bone out or rotating the knee out to open up the hips. So that's how you're going to remember knee adduction. And just understanding anatomy and just how everything attaches and kind of how the body works. So I hope you found this video informative, and I hope that it helps you get a better understanding of the viewpoint of how the body works and how the muscles function together as far as dysfunction or functional. Please feel free to leave a comment below if you are studying for your NASM. That way I can make more of these videos. I don't make a lot of these videos, but I felt like making one because I got a few comments on one of my this 20-minute video I made on NASM review. And I know that I said a lot of the same stuff in the video, but it's good to kind of hear it in a different way. And if you have any specific requests, please put it in the notes here below. And also maybe you can put some notes in here to help other people out, because people read through the comments and it'll help them get better at trying to pass. Maybe if you're someone that has passed it, or maybe you're studying for your CES or the other advanced certifications, you can also put a comment below and tell them your experience with the first test so that people can have a resource to go to. Anyways, my name is Ryan. I'm a personal trainer, been training for 14 years as of the date of this video. If you have any questions, again, feel free to comment, but thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber, click like so that you can help me out. See you later. Thanks for watching my video. If my video helped you, please click like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and share my video with somebody you think that it would help. Maybe a classmate, colleague, coworker, whatnot. Maybe they can help them pass the NASM and get a better understanding of anatomy so that they can get better with the test. I have a lot of experience with NASM, and my viewpoint comes from training people for the last over a decade. And I have the NASM performance enhancement specialist and the corrective exercise cert, and sort of one of my passions is injury prevention and also learning how to make your body move better, because I've suffered through a lot of different kinds of pains and injuries, and I'm also not a very athletic person at all, and I've run into so many problems with my back, and that's kind of what drove me to become a personal trainer in the first place. It's sort of a way to learn how to rehab somebody without being a physical therapist. Not to say that if you have a major problem, you shouldn't see a physical therapist. Understand that there are people that are much more highly qualified than me. I'm just someone with lots of experience that has helped a lot of people. And my main thing is to help people get better in their performance. Because ultimately, the first point is to make the pain go away or minimize the pain or fix the problem and then get better. Most people who work with physical therapists, doctors, and whatnot tend to always just try to basically fix the problem, but not get better. Meaning fix a problem like, okay, my knee's better, I can walk now, great. But how's that going to help me sprint a better 4-yard dash? How's that going to help me squat 500 pounds? How's that going to help me bench? My shoulder's messed up. Oh, great, I can raise my hand above my head, but I can't I want to bench press 400 pounds, That's kind of my thing. Is how do you take someone to the next level of their performance? Or more specifically, my performance, or maybe your performance, because that might be something that has motivated you to become a trainer or pursue the certification. But again, that's sort of my passion, so I hope you enjoy this video. Take a look at my other videos if you haven't already on NASM review. And thanks for watching.